Welcome to the Quickie Podcast, the daily interview show where we talk to graphic designers about their journey to the creative field. And we do it in 30 minutes or less. So, are you ready for a Quickie?
Timba, welcome to the Quickie Podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. So a recent move to London, you feel like you're settled in?
Settling in, yeah.
Perfect.
Not
Settling
settled
in.
in just yet, but settling in nicely.
Awesome. Are you ready for a Quickie before we get going here?
Yes. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I like to take the long way around. But yeah, no, I'm totally up, ready for a Quickie. Yeah.
Perfect, man. Well, let's start with the tough stuff. Briefly tell the listeners about yourself.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Timba Smits. I'm a graphic artist, illustrator, and curator, based out of London. I'm versatile in the work that I do. You take one look at my work, you'll see type, illustration, graphic design, print, digital, all coming together into the one thing. And you know, I'm versatile in the sense as well that over the years I've ran magazines, I've opened art galleries. I mean, I even opened up a nightclub with my brother at one point, which failed miserably. I'm a huge daydreamer. This has always been a really, really, really big thing for me ever since I was a kid. In fact, so much so that I have a little side project that I run, which is called the Daydream Club by Timba Smits. It's a mostly offline collaborative art project between me and other artists. I'm a big lover of puns, a huge movie lover, and often I like to fuse those things together.
I'm looking forward to that.
Puns and movies, you'll see a lot of pieces of my work with that kind of humor. What else? I mean, I'm also kind of giant. I'm sitting down at the moment, but if I stood up, you'd just see a lot of kneecaps. Yeah, pushing 2 meters, but super friendly. I mean, you know, a lot of my friends have I'd say it's a stolen nickname because it's a pretty famous book, but by a you know, not so well known author called Roald Dahl. You know, the BFG. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell, man. Yeah,
that covers it up. The only thing I'll add to that is in my family, we don't grow them tall.
You don't? No,
no, we do not. No, I'm standing up right now, actually. I'm just kidding. I'm totally sitting up.
Yeah, look, the only time that I ever wish that I was smaller in stature is when I'm at the snow, which is you know, we'll get into that later, but I'm really big into snowboarding and skiing, and you know, height has its advantages in some aspects of life, but geez, when I'm on the snow, I really wish I had a lower sense of gravity. So I look at all the shorter people around me, looking at them like through jealous lenses.
Your fall is just a little bit more.
Oh, mate. Yeah. I don't even have to like go off a jump. The fall's hard enough when I hit an edge, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Timba, so you've been out on your own doing graphic artist and illustrator stuff under your name. Did you kick it in studio life before making that move, or what's your quick path here?
So, I mean, I've always worked under Timba Smits, but have like jumped in and out of working in studios. I mean, if we want to go right back to the very beginning, I you know, after finishing high school, I did like so many different odd jobs, some of them like not even creative at all, you know, sales jobs, telemarketing jobs, whilst, you know, and using those jobs to fund my art practice. Look, to be honest, when I first started out, I wanted to be an artist, a fine artist, and that was going. I won't say it was going well, but it was going for some time. I was 20 when I opened up my first art gallery, called Timba Gallery. Yeah, classic name. And I mean, I didn't have any idea of how to run a business at that stage, so it didn't last any longer than 12 months before it failed. But you know, I learned a lot from it. And then after that, I took a small freelance job in a studio for about 3 months. After that, for a solid 10 years, it was me on my own freelancing. I, together with a friend in 2004, 2005, formed a magazine, and we self-published it ourselves. And that magazine was called Wooden Toy Quarterly.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like the Timba Pages.
No, I learned my lesson after the Timba Gallery to never call anything after myself again.
This episode is officially titled The Timba Talk.
Yeah, cool. And so I started out like really just by jumping in the deep end on my own with a friend. Like I said at the time, we started the magazine together. Mm-hmm. We ran it for about 4 years together before we split ways, and I continued with the magazine for about a good 6 years after that. That's what actually brought me here to London. So I formed my own studio really. And through running that magazine, I collaborated with artists and designers and illustrators from all over the world. And then that led me to a crossroads where this is all back in Australia as well, where I'm originally from. So it was around 2009 when I hit a crossroads. I felt like I couldn't grow the magazine any further than I'd got it there. Because, let's face it, Australia is a long way away from the rest of the world. They don't call it down under for nothing. And it's in its own like little bubble there. Great creative scene, but just small. And I wanted more. I wanted a lot more. And so I entered this competition and I won this award to go to London on a scholarship. I was meant to come here for 3 months and then go back to Australia and sort of put to use everything that I learned from meeting magazines here. I had some mentors that I was connected with. But once I got a taste of life in London and the international creative scene, well, shit, I couldn't go backwards from there, Like going back to Melbourne felt like, going back to almost a prison in a sense. Yeah.
So really the contest you won that gave you a taste of London, that taste of London turned into a much, much longer stay than originally planned.
It turned into a whole other career in itself. So really, and I'll probably get to this like later on with you. Don't want to really jump in the deep end too far with you right now, but I can split my career up into two phases. I mean, I've been at this for 20 years now, and there's a very, very clear 10-year and 10-year period and you can chop it down the middle. I've had two careers.
Wow.
And one was back in Melbourne and then one was here when I got to London. Yeah.
Perfect. So when you came over to London, really it was the magazine was your driving creation in London?
Yep, definitely was. I won that award on the basis that I came here to launch an issue. There were very specific things that I had to do in order to get the money from the scholarship. I basically submitted a business plan in a sense to the British Council, with the people who were running the awards program.
Okay.
And I had a very very cemented program of events and collaborations that I was going to do during these 3 months, and I did them all. And then I finished them all, but I didn't feel like I was finished here, and I wanted to keep going. So I went home, packed everything up, bought a ticket and came back here on my own accord. Packed up my whole life there, my studio, and literally moved it here to London on my own without really knowing anyone other than the people that I met through this scholarship. And I tell you what, it took me 10 years, trying. I mean, it took me 10 years to get to where I got, but it probably took 5 years, really trying to get my foot in the door internationally from Melbourne. And within 6 months in London, everything seemed to work. Everything was everything that I'd been trying to achieve for 5 years just started happening through hard work, mind you, and, a little bit of luck here and there, but started meeting the right people, started getting these amazing, illustration jobs from, Wired magazine and The Guardian and all these clients that I just, dreamed of working with for years and years and years back in Australia, but never really could kind of catch them on my line from back there, because you have to have really, really, really freaking long line to cast from Australia to London.
Definitely, for sure. So that little stint in London definitely opened some doors for you in terms of coming back and kicking them open further. Massively.
And through that, I learned that travel is hugely important in what we do, as creative people. If you keep yourself within this little bubble, you're missing out on all these like incredible opportunities that are really just a flight away or a train away
Totally.
or a bus or whatever. You don't have to like fly internationally. If you live in a big country like the States or Canada or Australia, even just moving to another city is enough to like, lift your like career to a whole new level that you never thought was like achievable. Yeah.
Totally. I want to just kick this back for a minute to childhood. I want to hear a little bit about mom and dad and who sort of guided you in this creative direction, or if that was something you took on naturally, and did they encourage that, or did they want you to go the doctor route or the basketball route, I guess, in your case? Like, give me just a brief intro to mom and dad and how they played a role.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I've got amazing parents. My mum and dad, I love them to pieces. They're fully supportive of me now. Going back to when I was, 15, 16 and really starting to show signs of being a creative kid, were they as supportive back then? Probably not. Mum, 110% yes. Dad, okay, I admit he was more of the, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be a scientist type dad.
Yep.
Look, it's a generational thing.
Definitely.
My dad was pretty hard on all three of us. I'm the middle child of two brothers, older and a younger, and we all got it like pretty tough when we were that same age, going through high school, and getting towards the end there, and you're starting to think about what are you going to do for the rest of your life. And Dad was kind of knocking down that door, like
Mm-hmm.
the science door. You've got to come through here with me, like do what I did. And Mum was always like very much on the other side of that spectrum, just being like, be who you are, follow your. So yeah, it was very confusing. Didn't like really know who to believe, and so I just decided to believe in myself. Okay, listen, I've got parents here with a split opinion on this. I'm just going to have to like trust my own instincts on this, and yeah, from a very young age, I showed huge creative potential. Like I said, I got two brothers. Both of them I'm very close with. We were best mates growing up, but the difference between us was creativity. Like, I was the only arty one in the family. They were both into cars and girls and partying like growing up, and I was into like spending hours and hours in my bedroom drawing, painting, playing with Legos up until I still play with Lego, but up until the age of like 18, like still messing around with Lego, painting models. I was quieter, and because of that, I got bullied a lot at school for being that quiet, like weird kid that carried around a pencil case that was bigger than his body, because you got to have all your art tools on you at any given time. You never know when the creative urge is going to come.
Totally.
And so I spent a lot of time by myself. And this is like probably when I started to like really notice design and illustration. Up until then, it was like all kids, it's just a fascination. It's about imagination. It's about daydreaming. It's about inventing worlds and all this sort of stuff. But then when I started like seriously getting into collecting Lego, G.I. Joes, playing with like like collecting miniatures and painting these things like Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. Yeah, they came with these like really intricate, like elaborate, beautiful illustration, packaging. Typography was amazing on it. And I know that, like listening to some of your other podcasts, a lot of other, creatives feel the same way about the toys that they grew up with playing. We kept the packaging and I still do that to this day. I keep the packaging for everything, and it drives my girlfriend nuts. But, I have this connection to, somebody kerned that shit, I need to keep that,
We almost become hoarders in support of others.
Yeah, totally. I'm the first to admit I'm a massive hoarder of many, many, many different things. And so, yeah, and also like at school, I also started to notice a real early entrepreneurial flair as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I never played Dungeons and Dragons. I mentioned this just before. I used to paint them. And so what I did was I painted them and sold them to the kids that played because they couldn't paint for shit, you know? And so it was a good exchange, you know? I'd buy these models for like $1 each, and sell them for like, you know, sometimes $10, $25 for a dragon, you know, like
good deal.
And so I made some good pocket money through early high school doing that. And then this will be the last like little bit that I'll throw in about my childhood, because this is a really, really like crucial part of my early career and a launch pad to what would come next. But in my final year of high school,
mm-hmm.
I won this like incredible competition through some naughty means, mind you. Like every Friday night there was big football match, like American football or whatever. We have Australian rules football, and every Friday night at the big games they'd have these banner competitions, and whoever had the best banner would win $1,000 competition prize. And I wasn't really into football, but my friend was, and he used to go to every single one of these Friday night games. And he cut this like deal with me, like, Timba, you paint the banner, I'll take it to the game, we'll split the winnings in half. And I thought to myself, cool, yeah. I painted this banner by stealing some of my art teacher's like canvas without it, without him knowing. My friend, he took the banner to the football. I'm there watching it on TV at home. And then next thing, the commentators like zoom to our banner. And there's my friend Craig like waving it in the air. And commentator says, you know, that's the winning banner for tonight. And this was being televised to millions of people around the country. Now, little did I know that the team that was playing was my art teacher's team. So
nice.
He's there at home watching. Yeah. He sees Craig, like another, you know, student from his class with the banner, and then he gets into class on Monday morning and realizes he's missing about 2 by 3 meters worth of canvas, and he put 2 and 2 together. Anyway, he was really proud of us for like, you know, for what we achieved. And then he said, and congratulations on the $850 that you won. And Craig and I looked at each other and we were like, 850 was 1,000. He's like, yeah, minus the 150 for the canvas that you stole from me. It's just this like funny memory that's just been there for my whole life that I come back to as probably being the springboard for launching me into a career in art and illustration. That was the first moment outside of selling these miniatures to kids where I thought, shit, I can make money from doing this. You know,
that's awesome.
I draw a picture and somebody gives me money. It's a great
as soon as you make that connection when you're an artist, it's like, okay, here we go. This is it. So I feel like you might have answered this next question, so I'm just going to skip right over that one. No, I love that. But Timba, who are some of the designers and brands that you look up to and closely follow, and what is it about them that you like?
I mean, like a lot of people that you have on this show, I guess, you know, it's a big question. There's so many to name. But I'd like to probably just answer, you know, by giving you a designer, an artist, and maybe a couple of brands, because, you know, I'm into more than just graphic design, or I'm into more than just illustration. So I follow people and admire artists from all different like disciplines. So if we're to start off with like graphic design, I'd probably say like Annie Atkins, you know, the graphic designer for Wes Anderson. I mean, I just, you know, absolutely love his films, you know, from a pure art direction point of view. It's just incredible. And you know, Annie Atkins is behind all of that, along with other designers here and there. But yeah, I follow her like religiously, and I've seen her talk twice at festivals over here in Europe, and I'm absolutely fascinated and, you know, slightly jealous at the same time. Yeah. From an art point of view, I absolutely love the Patrick duo. They're not brothers, sorry. The Patrick duo from Brooklyn that are known as Fail. Love these guys, their work. I own a couple of their prints. I can just stare at their work for days, absolute days. Does it inspire my work? Not necessarily, but I just, I just really look up to them as artists. They're prolific, they're hardworking, their output is amazing. And I just love that collaboration that they have. It's always been something that, I hope to reach at some point in my career, is find that other person that I can, team up with. Some brands, we've got, Studio out of Paris. Love their stuff. Husband and wife team, Laura and Stéphane Cassier. And another name, and this is probably a name that's been mentioned a few times on your podcast, but Johnny Cupcakes. I've had the pleasure of working for Johnny a number of times, and actually talking to him late last year. We'll be collaborating with him again soon. Cool. Love the guy's energy, the amount of personality that he injects into his brand. It's fun. It's relatable. Any brand can learn a lot from that guy, and so many have,
Definitely. No, those are great names. Annie Atkins, I wasn't too familiar with that, so I definitely want to learn more about her and the work that she's put together.
Mm-hmm.
So, Timba, I want to now slide into a question about print and packaging design. I want to hear how you have utilized print and packaging design in your career, and any stories of special projects that really stand out to you in that sort of print and packaging world.
Yeah, cool. I mean, going back to an earlier answer, you might remember I started self-publishing a magazine back in the mid-2000s. At the time, had absolutely no idea about print. Up until starting that magazine, I'd done a couple of pamphlets here and there, and a couple of nightclub flyers from my failed nightclub with my brother. And my friend and I at the time, we launched into doing this 86-page magazine. At the time, it was free. We didn't really know how much these things cost. Yeah. We looked into getting it locally printed, and we were like, wow, we're going to have to sell all of our limbs to afford that. Let's look at China. We started printing in China. It was a lot more affordable, especially for a free magazine. But we didn't spare any expense. Because we printed in China, we could afford, some elaborate finishes like some spot glosses, look out, matte coating, like nice, different paper stocks.
Yeah.
Going from uncoated to a glossy midsection, look out. And then after that, like we started, really pushing the magazine. It became bigger and required more paper, and we started printing it locally in Australia. So we took the printing from China back home. And through that, we could have a bit more of a hands-on approach to it. We would go down to the printers, and we'd do press checks, and we'd see the pages coming off the line. It was like super fascinating to me. I'd never really been in that situation before, and I felt so proud that we'd made these things ourselves, and that we were the client and the designer all at the same time. So that was my very first introduction into print. Mm-hmm. And then Chris, my business partner at the time, like, he split and I continued doing it. And I wanted this thing to, really grow into something that people would collect, hold on to, look at for inspiration. And I managed to achieve all of that and then some, like over the years, it grew into a magazine that came in bespoke packaged boxes with additional zines and prints and limited edition certificates. Each copy was numbered, so you only got one of 5,000 made. And I mean, that legacy still lives on today. Like, 15 years later, I still get emails from people just being like, hey man, would love to collaborate with you. By the way, like, I met you when you were making Wooden Toy. That was the magazine that got me into being a graphic designer. I discovered so many illustrators through subscribing to that mag. And that was one of the most beautiful sides of that project for me was the amount of opportunities that magazine was able to give to young artists and designers and illustrators and photographers who were looking to establish themselves. But at the same time, I was trying to establish myself, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I didn't let them know that.
Yes, exactly.
But it was something that I hold really dear to my heart, knowing that I probably inspired thousands of young designers to get into graphic design and illustration through running that magazine for near on 10 years. Yeah. And the magazine was called Wooden Toy Quarterly. You can look it up. There's still images online. It's famous for being the only quarterly magazine to come out once per year. It was a beast. It was towards its end game. It was 186 pages of just wall to wall typography, illustration, photography. There wasn't I'm all about filling the page. I mean, if we're going to chop down trees here and we're going to ink these pages, we may as well use up all the space, I mean, I always say a tree lost its branch for this magazine, this piece of paper, so I may as well make the most of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And because of that, they became collector's items. People never let these things go. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great one. I'm going to look that up for sure and get some visuals of this. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, cool. I'll send you some after the podcast as well.
Oh, beauty. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, Timba, I got to get into the tough stuff now. I got to get through some questions here that'll drag you through some memories that you'd rather not remember. And we'll talk about it. We'll share some lessons learned, and we'll quickly move on to some happy stuff.
Yeah, cool.
What has been the most challenging period of time in your design career so far? Why was it challenging, and how did you get through it?
Yeah, cool. We're about to get deep here. We're about to get deep and
nice.
slightly shocking. Are you ready for this? So like I said earlier, you can break my career up into two parts, and that's not only because of my midway move from Australia to the United Kingdom. So I've been doing this for 20 years. The first part was a real hard slog. That was the getting started, growing a name, building a name for myself back in Australia. Everything was going great. I won that scholarship to London. I got here and I started working with the best. Everything was going amazing. And that was probably 10 years. That was exactly 10 years into my career. I started in 2000 and that was 2010, right? That's the first decade. And then boom, everything went wrong. And this is where it gets quite shocking. I was a year into my time here in London, and I was on a bus and I got stabbed 3 times by some youths on the bus, and nearly lost my life. Ended up in hospital for weeks, 6 months of physical therapy. Thought I was fucking Superman after that.
Yes.
I felt strong. I'd been doing all this physical therapy, and that was actually probably the first bit of fitness that I'd ever applied myself to in my life outside of playing sports at school. and I felt great physically, but I didn't notice the mental cracks that were starting to appear underneath. So about 12 months after that brutal attack, I hit the floor. Depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, acute anxiety, the absolute works.
Crazy.
And this completely crippled me personally.
Yeah.
But it completely derailed my career. Goodbye clients, goodbye momentum, goodbye collaborations, just goodbye everything. And that went on for a good part of 2 years. So it's 2013 now. 3 years have gone by since, the start of my second decade. And I poked my head out of my shell for the first time. I woke up one day and I felt okay. I didn't want to be in my shell anymore. And I felt I'd been through the ringer, and it was about time to dip my toe back in that pond again. And so and now we're into the bit of how did I get over that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So during that whole like ordeal, like I got over the physical and the mental side of things just by doing a lot of rehab and a lot of therapy with psychotherapists and counselors and everything.
Yeah.
But how did I get back into my career? Well, I just looked back to the very, very, very beginning of everything creative for me and just thought about what it was that made me the most happy, and that was like creating art and making art and seeing people interact with that art. So I remembered what it was like doing the banner and the football and knowing that like millions of people were like looking at that, and how that might have inspired some young artist to take up a career in art and illustration himself or herself. And I thought, this is what I need to do. I just need to dip my toe back in by like making some art and putting together an exhibition. So together with a friend of mine who, now this is another layer, another shocking layer. A year after my attack, one of my best friends in London was hit with a brain tumor. And the two of us during that the aftermath, we're dealing with these two really, really hard challenges, life challenges. Yeah. There's me trying to pick up the pieces after nearly losing my life from my attack, and then him at the early stages of a brain tumor. Dealing with living the rest of his life with a brain tumor, which is still, is a day-to-day challenge for him. And so together we just needed this distraction, and we both loved film. And we decided we'd do some film-inspired exhibition, and we embarked on a very ambitious project of getting 250 artists together from all around the world and doing this exhibition called Not for Rental at a gallery here in London. And the exhibition was getting artists to create an artwork on a VHS cover inspired by their favorite film. And that was their canvas. Like, find a VHS cover and you can do whatever you want. The artwork can be on the outside, it can be on the inside. And we set up this gallery like a blockbuster video shop, right? Yep. People came in, they looked around, they could pick them up off the shelf and look at them. And when people bought them, we put one of those out for rental signs, on the shelf. Awesome. And it was fun, and it was a charity show. So he chose Macmillan Cancer Research as his charity, and then I chose this charity called Art Against Knives, which is a local charity here in London, which helps prevent knife crime amongst young people by intervening with art and illustration and design. And so with their help, we were able to put on this big, ambitious exhibition. It was a huge success. It got picked up by all the creative press in London and the rest of the world as well. And through that, I wasn't expecting this, but the gallery itself was connected to a publishing house, and that publishing house published two magazines, one called Little White Lies and one called Huck. And Little White Lies is, in my opinion, the world's best film magazine. And no more than a week into having this show up on the walls, the publisher and the general manager called a meeting with me, and they were like, "We were super impressed with what you've done here with this show and how you've managed to bring all these artists together with such flair and in such a chill fashion as well. You're a super calm dude under pressure, and it just so happens that our whole creative department has decided to leave and start up another studio, and we're in desperate need of an art director."
Yeah.
And I was like, "So what you're asking is, do I want to be art director?" And they were like, "Yes." And at first I freaked out. I just was like, "I'm not ready for this. I'm just dipping my toe back in, guys. Yeah. You're trying to throw me in the deep end here without any floaties on,
Yeah.
And do you know what floaties are?
Yeah. Those are like the little arm, the arm pillows, for lack of a better term, right? Yeah.
Arm pillows. Yeah, that's also a good name. And they offered me this position. I had to take some time to think about it, but after a week, I decided that this is exactly what I needed. this was going to be my recovery. I needed to put myself into this position. And so I took the job, and I was able to start by employing a couple of designers and start to build this new team. And I ended up there for 4 years before I decided to leave and go to Berlin. And from Berlin, I moved back here to London recently. Yeah.
Crazy, man. That's an incredible story, how that all went down, and sort of the massive ups and downs and whirlwinds that that incident really kicked off for you. And the path that really led you down. Wow. Like
it led me down this incredible path, actually. It wasn't all bad. I look back on that now and actually thank God that it happened. It's really weird. You might, people listening in might just be like, how can you say that? But I found so many incredible silver linings in the aftermath of that experience, and I connected with so many amazing people and formed new friendships. I lost old friendships, but they were replaced with like new ones that were better for me. It allowed me to look at my life under a microscope and really make some important changes, which I think everybody should do on a yearly or at least like 3-year basis. Let's not wait until these major shitty things happen in our lives to do that. So straight away after that attack, like I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking. I didn't smoke a lot, but I social smoked. I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped smoking. I stopped taking recreational drugs. I didn't take recreation. You might want to edit that.
He's talking about a friend. He's talking about a friend.
Yeah.
So it caused a lot. It forced you to self-reflect and to self-discover beyond that.
Yeah, massively. And on a personal level, but then on a career level as well. So one of the real shitty things that happened during that time was I had to close my magazine down, right? I felt like it was stolen from me. And you know what? I only stopped grieving about 3 years ago on that. Mm-hmm. I felt like I didn't get my own magazine to the point where I wanted to get it, but now I'm fine with it because along came this other opportunity through Little White Lies, and I felt like what I did in that 4 years was like hugely more influential to myself and to others than what I achieved in the 10 years like with my magazine, Totally. And so I learned a lot about overcoming adversity, like through that experience. And, I don't wish that experience upon my worst enemies, man. But there are going to be moments in your life and in your career where shitty things are going to happen. And, this is the moment. These are the moments in life where you learn exactly how tough you are. Personally, but then also creatively. Mm-hmm. I was really scared there for quite a while that I was never going to get my creativity back. It scared the absolute shit out of me, right? It was one of the scariest moments in my life because, up until that point, I was an artist and the artist was me. We were very connected and I felt like I just had my DNA ripped out of me, right? Now, I don't feel that way anymore. Heck, I love art, but it's not my everything, I can walk away from it. I can walk away from it tomorrow for 2 weeks and just go and do other things. And that's healthy. That's really, really healthy. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, man, I got one more that's going to just like touch a little bit on the tough stuff. It's an easier one. And then we'll slide into the happy place.
Yeah, cool.
But Timba, very simply, what is something that you're struggling with in your design career right now?
That's quite an easy one for me because it's a conversation that I have with, my partner and a lot of my close friends. Mm-hmm. And it's a single word: pace. Things are moving faster and faster, right? Yes. And I'm not alone in thinking this way. For me personally, it's tough because my process is quite slow. one look at my work, you see a lot of layers, you see a lot of texture, you see a lot of detail, and I am that is me. I am this attention to detail fiend, and the pressure to produce, communicate, and react faster and faster is a real struggle to me. Mm-hmm. Last year, for example, I had a tough year last year, like dealing with this, like, do I make some adjustments to my work? Do I take some of that texture out? Do I take some of that detail out? Do I like kind of simplify things a bit more, just to like keep up with that pace? And in the end, I just decided, you know what, like, fuck it. This is me, man. This is how I work. I'm not going to let the industry bully me around, just like I didn't let those shits on the bus bully me around, like, I was bullied at school, and I didn't let those bullies bully me around, but they still smashed me in the face. But anyway, I feel like the technology and the speed of it can be looked at as a bully. It pressures us into like making some changes that we don't really want to make, don't make us happy. And so that's something that like I struggle with, and I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. I know that there's a lot of other people in my circle that feel similar, and probably this will probably relate to a lot of people listening in to this podcast. That's my number one thing, like time and pace.
I couldn't agree more. And as things become more and more accessible with the click of a button or the quick touch of a screen, it sort of creates this culture of expectation. Of that's what it is. Everything should be at the click of a button. Everything. Well, why is it going to take you 2 months to do this piece? I can get it at 5 or in 3 days. Right? That sort of instantaneous culture, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Timba, I'm turning this bus around. I want to hear about a project that you've been a part of that you are the most proud of, the one that just makes your heart sing.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, I mean, it's a tough one, because I was really proud of what I was able to achieve with Wooden Toy Quarterly, my own magazine. Mm-hmm. However, like I said, I didn't get that to the point where I wanted to get it to. So I've got a bit of a, love-hate relationship with that memory.
Yep.
So I would say the one that wins is my very first issue as art director of Little White Lies.
Yes.
I came on board at a really, really, really difficult time, literally picking up the pieces around me still after my attack, and wasn't functioning creatively. Put myself in this real high pressurized situation of not only having to design a magazine within a month, but also being responsible for 2 designers. Holy shit, I've got 2 designers all of a sudden. What the hell? How did that happen? And it was nerve-wracking. But I dug deep. I remembered my steps, and I achieved the impossible under the situation. I pulled these designers together. I was able to, like, from our very first issue, build a really, really like tight knit team with them, and a nice understanding of like where we were going and how we were going to do it. And at the same time designed a brilliant issue of Little White Lies. And I can say it was brilliant because I wasn't alone in thinking it was brilliant, because it actually won a D&AD award for being, the best design magazine of like 2014. And I was just like, man, how'd that happen? Like, here's me just still dipping my toe into the pond again, and I managed to pull off the impossible. When I found out that I won that D&AD award, I was actually on holidays with a really dear friend of mine. The first time that I'd seen her after everything that I'd been through. Mm-hmm. She's from Australia, and we met up halfway in Bali. And I got a call from the guys at the magazine saying, Timba, we got some news. Your first issue won a D&AD award. And mate, I started sobbing. Absolutely sobbing, and not from a bad place. I had a moment had one of those euphoric moments, man. Like I couldn't stop. I had snot tears and everything, you know. And my friend,
full ugly cry.
yeah, full ugly cry. And my friend, she's like, "Fuck, who are you talking to? Are
She's
you
thinking
okay?"
something horrible has happened.
Yeah, thinking something absolutely horrible was happening. I was hyperventilating, you know, during these ones. And after I calmed down, I told her what had happened, and then she started crying, and we had this like incredible like natural high, man. You know, like that. You know, I've like never taken acid before, but I reckon it was probably the equivalent of 20 acid tabs at once. You know, like, just this huge euphoric high. And so, yeah, I think that was like probably one of my most proudest moments. Not only that, but also the fact that I was able to give a whole like swagger of new artists opportunities in the magazine, because up until that point, it was a very London-centric magazine.
Yes.
It wasn't really like commissioning many artists like outside of that little bubble. And so from my first, and also like it was a little bit like male-dominated as well. And so from the very first issue, I made some huge changes, and that was right. Female artists on the cover, boom, that's one thing. And then artists from all around the world, and I commissioned, you know, and I gave some real young like illustrators their first opportunities, and like they, you know, I see those illustrators at exhibitions now 10 years, like nearly 10 years on, and they're still like, you know, like, Timba, like, thanks for giving me that chance, you know.
What an incredible feeling. That's so good.
Yeah.
What I love about this question, and I've said this before on the show, but I'm going to say it again. What I love about this question is 99 nearly % of designers that I ask this question to, whether they're on the podcast or I'm out for lunch with them and they're a customer or a friend, it's not the project that gave them the big paycheck that allowed them to take the big vacation. It's not the one that allowed them to put a deposit on the Tesla. It's not that job. It's the one for the nonprofit down the street where that nonprofit can now help this person, and they did the job pro bono. It's the job that allowed other designers to elevate themselves along with that creative. Like it's the project from the heart. And that's what I love about this, is that it's always that project from the heart. Yeah,
it is, and you know, and that should be every project. Like, I feel like money just gets in the way of that. You know, money is you know, one of the biggest monsters on the planet. It loves to come in and just like, you know, gobble up all the fun and all of the, you know, the heartfelt energy that goes into these things. But you know, like, that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? But yeah, I agree with you, man. Like the ones, anybody that I speak to as well, when you talk about their favorite projects, similar story. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Timba, you've reached the point of the show for the Ask It Forward question.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll wrap it up here. And so I have a question for you from my last guest, and you get the opportunity to ask a question of my next guest, but I'm not going to tell you who they are. Cool. So my last guest was Santosh Chawla. He is the senior graphic designer at Affinity Creative out of Oakland, California, specializes in that premium wine and spirit sort of packaging design world. Had an awesome conversation with him. He came over from India when he was 24, hustled in the game over here. Like, it was just incredible. A really, really great interview. And he wanted to ask you the age-old classic question. If you had to go to dinner with 3 people, if you got to go to dinner with 3 people of your choice, anybody, alive, dead, anybody, who would they be and why?
Oh man, first of all, I freaking love this question. This is so good. Can I just say, like, put Tom Hanks in a clone machine and go to dinner with 3 Tom Hanks?
3 Tom Hanks, yeah.
No.
Sprinkle a little Keanu Reeves on there.
Oh yeah, Keanu. Yeah, but I'd probably just, like, you know, at some point jump over the table and just plan a whole lot of kisses on him. But
I think that's fun.
No, I mean, Tom Hanks, definitely. Love that guy. Let's see. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I know I'm like just like naming film stars here, but anybody that knows me knows that half of my day-to-day language is speaking in an Arnie impersonation.
Nice.
And I'd just like to see how that would go with a conversation with Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know?
So then this third person, I want you to tell me who this third person is, but I want you to do it in your Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
Okay. Come on, that's too difficult. Come on. No, I think I would like to bring my godmother back from the grave, and she can sit there with me and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Hanks. We can have a nice bratwurst sausage with mashed potatoes. Come on.
I love it. Would you actually have a bratwurst?
And we fly home.
Perfect. So we got Tom Hanks, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we've got, was it your grandmother, your great-grandmother?
My godmother.
Godmother, sorry.
Godmother, Barbie. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. I love the answer. I love the personality we got in there, the swagger in there. Timba, what is the question you would like me to ask the next guest for you?
Yeah, cool. So my question is a little bit inspired by something that I mentioned earlier when I discovered that, you know, art isn't my be it and end all thing anymore. You know, like I'm comfortable with like stepping away from that and doing some other things and being happy with taking time out from art and design. I'm curious to know if there are other people that feel a similar way. So I want to frame the question like this, right? So I love art, I love design, but I freaking love snowboarding, man, right? And when I'm at the snow, I often think to myself, like, shit, do I like snowboarding or art more? Like but then when I'm doing my art, I'm like, I'm so happy doing that. But then I'm like, the snowboarding starts creeping in. And I'm like, oh, I need to go to the mountains, you know? And I had this like real like battle with this love affair. So my question is this your main love? You know, like, is art your main love, or do you have a little bit of naughty on the side that like really just, you know, wants to pull you over for a quickie every now and again?
I love it. Oh, man. Yeah, that's so funny. So you frame the question, you know, is art and design your full love, or do you have a side chick that you're struggling with?
or a side bloke, you know?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Got to make sure it's equal. Yeah.
Yeah, equal opportunity. Everybody's good.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Timba, that's a great question. I'm looking forward to asking that of the next guest. You'll have to listen in to hear who I had to ask that question to.
Great.
And you've reached the end of the Quickie podcast, man. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story. And my God, there are so many gems here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dave. It's been great chatting to you, man. Yeah, I've really enjoyed every minute of it.
I love that.